from the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
What's up, Cowboys Nation?
What is up? Welcome to a special Wednesday edition. It's always special when we have a guest. Wednesday edition of Cowboys Cave. My man Kelly K9, how are you doing today?
I am doing fine. I am a little over a week away from a long overdue vacation back down to San Antonio, Texas. So I'm counting down the days, man. But in the meantime, we pass our time talking about Cowboys and bringing in good guests for the great fans of Cowboys Nation. And we've got another good one today. This should be fun. Looking forward to it. So
yeah, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some fun with this one. Now, I always say there's got to be a tie back to the Cowboys, and this our next guest, Ian Beckles. He's a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but more importantly, he played with the Philadelphia Eagles. So we're gonna be talking some Philadelphia Eagles stuff because I want to get the other side of the rivalry. But more importantly, there's something special I have for him as well because there was a special moment in the Cowboys Philly rivalry during his time. And your boy Mike Tag was there live and in person, so we're going to get into that. But hopefully we had a little audio thing. I think we got it worked out, so we're going to bring him in without wasting no more time. Mr. Ian Beckles, how are you doing today?
How are you guys this fine evening?
Oh, we're doing good. We're going to be feeling better when football season gets going, and get back in the swing of things. It didn't end so well for our Cowboys, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. More importantly, I wanted to talk about your career. I thought it was interesting. You were a second overall pick for the in the CFL, and
Yep.
I'm thinking second overall. Maybe you're getting paid, but you opted for the NFL. Was that more of being in the NFL, or was the pay, even at being a second overall pick, was that different in the NFL?
Well, I mean, if you go back to my childhood, there was times where the CFL actually stole players from the NFL. Johnny Rogers was a Heisman Trophy winner. He went to the CFL. Vince Ferragamo. There was times where the CFL was competing against the NFL, but not in the '90s. Okay, so I was in the early '90s. I was a second pick. I was a fifth rounder in the NFL, and comparatively, there was no money. It wasn't much. It wasn't much of a choice. My dream was to play in the NFL. If I didn't make it in the NFL, I surely would have played the CFL. I thought that would have been beautiful. I love CFL football, but it's not the NFL though.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you had a really nice, very good you could say great career in the NFL. You're playing 10 years. You were one of the Bucs top 100 all-time players. I know you played the Cowboys with the Buccaneers in the early part of your career, but not later. But did you grow up a Cowboys fan? Or you're from Canada? I should have said that. So in the NFL, do you guys pick a team, or how does that work for up in Canada?
Well, being Canadian, you put on the television, and the Dallas Cowboys were on a lot. It was America's team. I found myself drawn to them. That was during their heydays. Roger Staubach and Toy Dorsett, and I was a huge. Harvey Martin was my favorite football player of all time. I had Doomsday posters and Randy White posters, and my whole room was Dallas Cowboy stuff, kind of like your room. So I went through my life as a Dallas Cowboy fan. I mean, through and through. When the draft came, I got drafted by the Buccaneers. My rookie year, I believe we played them twice, if I'm not mistaken, and they beat us twice, and that kind of accelerated them into where they ended up going, and we really didn't go anywhere. And then later on in my career, when I played 2 years for the Philadelphia Eagles, you can't exactly like the Dallas Cowboys when you're playing for the Philadelphia Eagles and living in the city of Philadelphia. So
yeah,
my hatred for the Cowboys started then. I don't hate the Cowboys. I don't hate them, but I don't love them either, though.
Well, so you talked about playing the Cowboys twice in that 1990 season. So it got me looking because I was looking back in the schedule, and I know they weren't a divisional opponent. We played you twice in 3 weeks. What do you know what the reasoning behind that was, and why we played you guys twice that year?
I'm not sure. If you look back, it might have been the year where there was 2 buys. I'm not sure. We had some cockamamie years way back in the beginning of my career, but I remember the Cowboys sucked, and we sucked too. And we kind of gave them 2 games, and I don't know if they did great that year, but then from then they just started to gradually get better. And the '90s were the year of the that was the Cowboys decade, that's for sure.
Well, we've been waiting for that decade to come back. We're going to get into that a little bit, but the 90, that was Emmitt Smith. We went 7-9. 2 of our wins against the Bucs. I don't know if that counts for anything. Maybe it would have been 5-11 if we played somebody else. But the Buccaneers. I live in Tampa now, so I follow the Bucs just by being a fan. And I mentioned off the air, but I just want to say it again: is not only were you a great football player, but you're a hell of a sports radio host as well. And you still got a great career in sport broadcasting, and listen to you on DAE all the time with Ron Diaz. And, you did, like I said, you had a Cowboys fan intrigued listening to Tampa Bay radio. So you had to have been doing something right. So what was your time with Ron Diaz? I just got to say, because as a kid, I listened to Ron and Ron. Is he about as cool as we thought as kids growing up?
Well, the thing is, I didn't really experience Ron and Ron. So when I went on to the radio with Ron, I knew nothing about him. I mean, absolutely nothing. And throughout the years, I realized what kind of a radio legend he was. Ron originated a lot of things. Howard Stern stole stuff from Ron and Ron from back in the day. So, Ron, in a lot of ways, was one of the original shock jocks from back in the day. So I learned a lot from Ron in the radio from the 20 years that I worked with him, with a few more than 20 years. I had a 2-year stint in the middle where I stepped away and I went to the Bone, and I went over there and learned from Mike Calta. So, I've learned from the best in the area. And, radio is something that I kind of fell into, and I've always been an opinionated person. And it just gave me an avenue to speak, the way I do. And now, without the radio, I got a couple of podcasts, so I'm still trying to spit as much knowledge as I can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, real quick, before we get to the NFL, one other player that you played with, you were in Indiana. You were in Indiana, and one of the guys that you played with that I kind of was a fan in college. Now, I'm from the U. I'm a Miami fan, but one of the guys I like was Anthony Thompson, running back. He had a huge college career. I think he got drafted by the Cardinals, and it just didn't work out. I mean, was he as good as it was in college? And do you know why maybe things just didn't pan out for him in college or in the NFL?
Well, I think he had 1,800 yards his senior year. He led the nation in rushing. We played Wisconsin that year. Wisconsin was pretty good, and he had 55 carries for 377. So you could say he was a workhorse, because that's not going to happen again. Nobody's going to ever have 55 carries again. The agent's going to come on the field and tell them, let's stop that, okay? Anthony Thompson was a great college football player, but his game didn't really translate to the NFL. He wasn't the best route runner. He wasn't very fast. He was kind of a punishing runner, he's a punishing runner, but he wasn't very big. So it's kind of hard to succeed in the NFL when you're taking licks and you're not that big. And as far as the U, I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and my boy Alonzo Highsmith, I grew up with Alonzo Highsmith, and that was the toughest SOB I've ever been with around in my life. And from what I hear, the second he walked into the building at the U, it all changed. So that's what I was brought up with, because Alonzo Highsmith, still to this day, is a bad son of a bitch.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm working on. He's coming into the cave, because I do some Cane stuff. I had Coach Erickson on, I had Malik Rozier on. I've had some other former Canes on, and he's been. I always say he's the OG of Miami. He's the one that really, him and Melvin Bratton, they were the ones that kind of cemented the swag at the U. So I am glad that you said that. Now we're being too nice. Now things are going a little too nice. We gotta bring up the halo bit. So let's talk about a little bit about the Eagles. And I want to play something for you. And then my man Kelly, I know he's got a lot to say about the Eagles because he fights with the fans all the time. But I always talked about this. This is the game I went to. It was the second game I've ever been to in Texas Stadium, and I went with an Eagle fan. And hopefully you can hear this. I'm going to change this up a little bit just to help with the visual. But tell me if you remember this time.
That tipped it. They shouldn't have been a pass interference call, and that's why Dallas was able to score.
Scrimmage when he delivered it.
22-yard attempt for Chris Bonio. Tommy Hutton
I
to
love
hold
it.
it, to win the game for the Eagles. And drops it, and Hutton loses the football.
You believe this?
And Dion will tell you it's divine intervention, and nobody's going to argue with him.
And this game is over.
Unbelievable.
Eagles players are throwing their helmets. They're lying all over the field.
Well, pay attention.
That was impossible.
Now, who is that? Who is that with the helmet? Were you the one throwing your helmet?
No, I don't throw my helmet. I can't pay the fine. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That's the worst loss in my career.
Really?
People ask me what's the. I didn't go to playoff games, and that was my first Monday night game. That game, Pat Summerall and John Madden invited me in to talk to me, and I didn't know why. And John Madden said, "I invited you in because I can't believe you've been in the league for 8 years. I'd never heard of you." So that's the way my career went. That game, I was kicking the shit out of Tony Casillas. I was about to get a game ball, and Tommy Hutton drops it and then trips. And then we got into the locker room. Then I watched Ricky Waters throw a water bottle, not a little one, a big one, at Tommy Hutton, and it wasn't the prettiest thing in the world. But thank you for revisiting that. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Well, I was there live, and I was there with my buddy who was an Eagle fan, and you guys were beating us the whole game. It was the whole game to the end. And I think Anthony Miller got 2 touchdowns at the end. We jump ahead. You guys go down the field with crossing the line of scrimmage, a little bit of a penalty. We're going to overlook that. Crossing the line of scrimmage and pass the ball to the receiver. And the thing that always amazed me is watching it now, where was the panic in them? Because Bonio, there was plenty of time. There wasn't a big rush. I just don't know why they got so frazzled, the punter and the kicker, or the holder and the kicker there.
That was just a moment. It was too big for them, clearly, because my best buddy on the team, Steve Everett, was the center. And he ran up to me and goes, "Was it a bad snap?" And I go, "Dude, I don't freaking know. I'm looking up, And then, so he thought it was a bad snap. And we finally looked at it. It was a perfect snap. And Hutton dropped it. Still had enough time to put it back down. Didn't put it down. Started to run and then tripped.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he didn't have any money on that damn game. That's for real.
Well, Bonio was a former Cowboy the year before, so it made it a lot sweeter for the Cowboy fans. But Kelly, do you remember that? You remember that game at all, or no?
Yeah, I do remember that. I'm a '90s Cowboys fan, but if it's any consolation to my man Ian over here, I mean, that does give me some PTSD of Romo versus Seattle. I mean, I'm watching that play, and that literally is what's playing through my head. I'm thinking, I know that pain. I've seen that shit before, man. As a Cowboys fan, I literally have lived a lifetime of those kind of moments, it seems like. So, but talking about rivalries, when being with Tampa Bay and then being with Philly, was Philly and Dallas one of the most heated rivalries you'd been a part of?
Clearly, I mean, I was in Tampa Bay for 7 years, and we can say we had rivalries, but we weren't beating anybody. So we weren't anybody's rival. Detroit, I mean, we both sucked, so I wouldn't even bring up rival as a word. When I got to Philadelphia, the Eagles had some success. The Cowboys were the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a team. You guys understand this as Cowboy fans. If you don't like the Cowboys, you can't like the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the Lakers. The Cowboys are the Yankees. If you don't like the Cowboys, you're not allowed to like the Cowboys a little bit. So the Cowboys are a lot of people's rival. And in Philadelphia, look, Washington's a rival, Arizona, but not like Dallas. Dallas is different. The coach is different. The press is different. It's just there's a little bit more hate in the air for sure.
Yeah. And let me ask you, being, for the, playing for the Eagles, the fans, the Philly fans, It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it just seems like they want acceptance by the Cowboys that they are a formidable rival or that they're good or something, because it just seems like everything is always compared to the Cowboys with the Eagles. You got Jalen Hurts, who had a great year. I mean, good year. But then they always got to compare him to Dak Prescott. You had Carson Wentz was having a good year. Oh, he's better than Dak. They always compare him to Dak Prescott. It's always the measure and stick for the Eagles fans. I don't want to say the players. I just say the fans. It's always the Dallas Cowboys. Did you sense that when you were there as well?
Well, I wasn't exactly exposed to the Philly fans on purpose.
On purpose.
Because I didn't have a bulletproof vest or all kind of things. The Eagle fans, they say are passionate. I think they're batshit crazy, to be honest with you, because I've been around passionate fans. Passionate fans don't spit on people. Okay, I watch people spitting on people and fights and throwing beers, and man, used to be it. Listen, they're passionate. Don't get me wrong, they're passionate, but you should be able to wear an opposing team's jersey in a stadium and not be scared to get murdered. Because as a Philly, I was in Philly. I've had a couple people say to me, "Hey, I'm going to Philadelphia. I'm going to wear my Lions jersey." And I look at them. I go, "Look at my face. This is my serious face. Don't do it. Like, there's no reason to do it to yourself, because they run around with the Crips and the Blood, and they don't F around. I'm telling you."
Yeah.
So I'm not. Philly fans are passionate, but I'm not supporting that kind of passion.
Yeah, I can't name another fan base that I've seen when they won the Super Bowl. They literally had fans that were taking bites of horse manure, and I thought, now I'm a passionate guy, but I mean, I don't care if the Cowboys won 10 Super Bowls in a row, and there's no scenario where I'm doing that to celebrate. I prefer a nice glass of whiskey.
Yeah, Philly fans are passionate, but you don't exactly want them to babysit your children, though.
No, and that's the only thing. I thought we were going to get some hate here. Now we agree with you. We agree with you, and but yeah, the Philly. It's interesting because I go to I have season tickets to the Cowboys, so I go out to 4 or 5 games. I never miss a Philly game, and for the record, I've said it here a million times. Anyone who follows me know I've never walked out of any stadium playing Philly disappointed. Undefeated. You saw the miraculous, the game that you were unfortunately a part of, because I like you. I don't want you to be part of anything like that. But I've seen the blowouts. I've seen all of that. And it's a lot of fun. But the fans, when they go to the other stadium, I don't see what you talk about. I'll sit and talk with them, and we'll shoot the stuff. Hey man, we love your hype videos. We love this. Can we get a picture with you? I said, I don't see the hate. It's like when they're taken out of their territory. It's almost like the dogs in the kennel when they're in their comfort zone, they're protected, but when they leave, they're like little kittens.
Well, they're not as powerful. When I'm here in Tampa, I go to some Lightning games, and when we go to Flyer games, you see them once again roll around in packs, and they act a fool a little bit more so than the other fans. But the people from Philadelphia, they wear that badge, the dick badge. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. Yeah. I'm from Philly. As you're being you could be from Philly and be. I know a lot of people from Philly are cool and nice.
Yeah.
But they'll hit that dick, switch real quick on you if you let them.
Yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Just to change gears, just one thing, and then we can always get back, because I love hating on Philly, so we could do it for an hour. Talk about your time. I just want to talk about your time in Tampa Bay, because you got there in really bad times. I'll be on the record. I might be one of the few. I love the old school uniforms of Tampa Bay. I wish they would have kept them, but of course, they changed it, and I think they're going to come back a little bit this year. But one thing I always wanted to ask a Tampa Bay Buccaneer is Tony Dungy, phenomenal coach, Hall of Fame coach, did a great thing. Do you feel that Sam Weiss kind of gets lost, because he was there when they drafted Brooks, he drafted Sapp, he drafted Lynch. I mean, the team was kind of getting there. I remember the famous 5-0 or whatever he did when you guys got off to that fast start. But do you think Sam Weiss as a coach is kind of the forgotten guy in Tampa as far as bringing that team back from, the dismal point they were in, or no?
I wouldn't give him as much credit as I would give Tony Dungy credit for what John Gruden did.
Okay.
Sam Weiss was starting to turn the corner, but we still weren't 500. We didn't know how to win.
Yeah.
You know, he drafted Sapp, he drafted Brooks, but they weren't Sapp and Brooks while he was here. They turned into Sapp and Brooks when he left. I would say the person who doesn't get enough credit is Monty Kiffin. Monty Kiffin doesn't get enough credit for what he's accomplished because, you know, Tony Dungy, without an offense, was they were balling every stinking year, and the only thing Tony Dungy had, his only downfall was his loyalty to maybe his offensive coaches, and he's kept them on board. And Shula and those guys, they're scoring 8 points a game.
Yeah,
you got 8 points, you might win 8-6. So if any time, you know, everybody wants to say, well, John Gruden won the Super Bowl with his team, and it was his team because he was the head coach. But if John Gruden was the offensive coordinator at any of those years that Tony Dungy was here, the Bucs probably would have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It just seemed like they were stubborn. Not Dungy. I don't know if it was Dungy or whatever, but like the on the offense. I mean, I don't want to dog any players, but they drafted Riddell Anthony and Jacques Green, and they had these guys. They never went all in on offense, you know, and got the playmakers. Of course, you got work done. It was good and all stop, but it seems like they were always struggling at receiver until Gruden came in, and you get Keyshawn and who was the one kid from the Giants who the Giants
what position,
wide receiver. The
Clayton?
Was it Jurevicius? Is that
Jurevicius?
okay?
Jurevicius,
yeah. I mean, they got some big guys, and they started doing stuff. But I was just always curious because I always liked Sam Weiss more in Cincinnati. I remember him in Cincinnati, and it's just my favorite line of him was when they were throwing trash on the field, and he said, "You live in Cincinnati, not Cleveland." So, how was he as a coach? Was he a pretty cool guy, good coach?
Sam was a good guy. I liked Sam as a person. Like, I didn't get a chance. I'd be honest with you, I never really knew any of my head coaches, but he seemed like a cool guy. Like when Tony Dungy made his opening speech, I said, okay, this is the guy. And then when he spoke 6 months later, a year later, 4 years later, it's the same speech. Like, he doesn't change.
Yeah.
Sam changes a lot.
Okay.
He's a little bit wishy-washy, you know? And NFL football players don't care for wishy-washy. Like, we just want to know the way it is. Like, if I stink, tell me I stink.
Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush. And Sam was, I like my stuff black and white. Okay. Yeah. And you know, I didn't have an issue with him, but I think it was time to leave. And Tony Dungy was the perfect choice.
Yeah. And just one other thing on your career. If I bring up the name Bill Parcells, what's your thoughts?
Bill Parcells. I was with Bill Parcells briefly with the Jets at the end of my career. It was an honor to be. You know, when I look back, it was an honor to be in that locker room. You know, with the Jets, they had Jumbo Elliott and Jason Fabini and Keyshawn Johnson and Wayne Corbett and Brian Cox. And, I mean, you could keep on. This had all these veteran players that you knew could play. And I was one of them. So it made me feel good about my career. It didn't end up the way I wanted. I busted my ankle up and I got an injury settlement. But Bill Parcells knows way more football than anybody else I've ever been around in my life. Like, every aspect of the game, he knew.
Yeah.
Like, he knew exactly where everybody's special teams was supposed to be. He knew where everybody's supposed to be on every stunt. He knew how to pick every blitz. Everything was going on in a practice field. He would stand there and coach. And I've never seen a coach do that before. And as far as the mental part of it, as a psychologist and a psychiatrist, he knows when you're too high because he's going to bring you down. And he knows when you're too low because he'll try to boost you up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of a great leader. He's an a-hole, but he's a great leader.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Well, you played with, obviously, on the offensive line. I've always been fascinated by offensive linemen. Not a lot of people say that, but when you've watched a guy like Larry Allen and you've had guys like Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin kind of come through the Cowboys organization and just kind of looked at the offensive line, they're always the first when they're walking out in training camp. They're always walking out together. They always it seems like it's a very tight knit group. Were you the same way when you were in Tampa, and do you still have some pretty tight relationships with the guys that you played with back then?
First of all, you shouldn't put those other people in the same category with Larry Allen. Don't do that. Okay, that's
Larry is on another level.
Larry, yeah, it's true.
I think Larry Allen's the best football player ever played. Period. Any position, he was that good to a point where I don't even know what he was doing out there benching 700 pounds. It didn't make sense. As far as offensive line goes, listen, there's 5 guys playing together. It's the biggest group on the football field. DBs play one at a time. They're all on their own. We're combination blocking, and there's combinations in there. You have to know, you have to be on the same page. So, you hear offensive linemen going out and hanging out together and, eating and partying, stuff like that. And it leads to good things, the camaraderie. For the most part, we're the big ugly guys that, don't get paid as much, although some bitches get a lot of damn money now.
Now they do.
Back in the day, we didn't get paid as much. We didn't get the girls like the running backs. So we kind of all stuck together. And, we had love for each other. And today, Tony Mayberry was here yesterday. Ty J. Armstrong was here today. Get a chance to see some of my old brothers every once in a while. And we try to stay in touch as much as we can.
Yeah. No, I mean, it that's a thing. I mean, you really look at some of the teams you were on. There were some. You guys had you had some ballers on there. You were right there when Tampa was on the cusp. Was there any regrets of going to Philly? Because I think you signed as a free agent, or was Tampa your time up, or did you make that decision to go to Philly?
Well, I did my 7 years here in Tampa. I was a free agent. They decided not to re-sign me. Chris Forster was the offensive line coach here. And look up his story. I'm okay with taking my side on that one. Chris Forster, look up his story. He was one of the main reasons why I left. And then I went to Philadelphia. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay here and finish my career here. I knew you only have a 3 more years. I spent my 2 years in Philly, bagging up, played pretty well. I mean, my last year in Philadelphia, I played every snap. I don't think I practiced a Wednesday or Thursday all year. I played every snap that year. And then, I don't know if you remember the name George Hegeman.
Oh, yeah.
George, he played for the Cowboys, and he was my backup in Philadelphia. They gave him, I think, $2.5 million that year, and I wasn't making nearly that. And he literally sat in the bench and watched me all year. And even today, I saw George not too long ago. We're still good friends.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I was never I was the smallest. I think I was the shortest lineman in the NFL since the day I was there. And George was 6'7", 370. But when Sunday comes, it's time to play. And that's where I showed up. 6'1", nobody gives a shit. How tall you are when Sundays come around.
Yeah. And it's interesting when I was reviewing and kind of going back in time, when it came up to the memory that you were there in 97, and that obviously brought a beautiful memory to my mind. The thing I always think about, because we have this dilemma with Zeke, and not to bounce around on some subjects, but those rumors of Zeke possibly going to Philly, which I don't think is going to happen now, but this was like earlier on, and it would absolutely crush me. I have a cave, and it's known that if you go to another team, you're out of here. Maybe when you retire, we can mend the fences. But when someone goes to Philly, it absolutely would crush me. And I think it works both ways. And I forgot that my man from the U played with the Cowboys, won some Super Bowls. Darren Smith was on Philly. He left Dallas to go to Philly. And I had to look around to make sure I don't have any Darren Smith pictures in here. Thank God I didn't. I'd be embarrassed. But did you know him at all? Because just from the U, he was one of my favorites. He was in the Bermuda Triangle with Armstead and Barrow in Miami. And I mean, he was a bad linebacker, in his time.
Yeah, that was after my time. And listen, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I watch a lot of Dallas Cowboys, football. Just as everybody does. They're always on. You better hope that the Eagles sign Zeke. Zeke doesn't scare nobody no more. I mean, he's a legend.
Yeah.
But do you think he's going to rush for 100 yards again in his career? I don't see it.
But do you think he has a place with short yardage, with goal line? I mean, could he have a career like an Ingram or someone he's never going to be the guy. He's not the guy right now anymore. But do you think he's totally washed and that's it?
Well, I mean, name me a short yardage guy in the league now.
Wow, but Dallas don't have a guy to grind it out. I can name some guys that grind it out. Well, who can Dallas grind it out with right now on the roster? Pollard?
I mean, Pollard.
You think Pollard? You can give Pollard 25 carries a game? Can you? I hope you're right. I just want to know.
You know what the most overrated thing in the NFL is right now?
What?
Is a running back. A running back.
Really?
There's two real running backs in the NFL. All the rest of them are just guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Pollard's a guy. He's good. It's not great. Zeke is a guy that who's his talent is going away. Okay, you can see it. He's tripping. He doesn't make the same cut. Okay, there's no short yardage guys anymore. If you have a guy who's a short yardage guy, you're just taking a guy off a roster.
Yeah.
You know, get me a kid out of college who's going to play special teams. Let him be the short yardage guy. If Zeke's on your team, it better be a good team. You better not be depending too much on him and kind of feed off his leadership.
Yeah.
As far as his play has been done for at least 3 years. I mean, he hasn't been great.
Yeah.
Well, the Cowboys did, they picked up, and me and Mike had kind of talked about it, and you kind of just echoed that right now about get a guy that could play special teams, be your short yardage guy. The Cowboys did, for the first time in a while, they grabbed a guy, Hunter Lupke, a fullback. They got a fullback on the roster, and I've seen some tape of this kid, and he's a guy who's multifaceted. He can catch the ball, he can run the ball, but he's a bigger guy. He can block, and I think that's kind of maybe the role they may be, envisioning him if they do feel that they need that short yardage kind of guy to get some dirty yards, is get a fullback in, which would be interesting to watch in the offense. I don't know really. Fullbacks is kind of went by the wayside now, but what do you think about a guy like that coming in and his chances to maybe compete on that roster?
I mean, I could name maybe 2 fullbacks in the NFL, and they're both hybrid.
Yeah.
Like nobody goes downhill no more. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. The funniest thing I ever heard in sports radio was when Tim Tebow was coming out in college, and everybody was tossing his salad everywhere, and people were saying, if he doesn't make it at quarterback, he can play fullback. And I was listening to people say that, and I said, if you ever played one down in the NFL, that can't come out of your mouth. You can't. If you watch what a fullback does, ask Tim Tebow if he wants to do that.
Yeah.
I promise you he doesn't want. You know who else doesn't want to do that? Zeke Elliott. He ain't doing that. He didn't. Yeah. Mike Allstott did it. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's because John Gruden was penalizing him for being a bigger star than he was. And that's all that was happening pretty much. Yeah. But nobody wants to be a fullback anymore. No way.
So being a lineman, and I'm obviously Emmitt Smith is my guy, so I don't think his record will ever get broken. Do you think, the running back being devalued and the game changing, is that, what's your philosophy on offense? Do you still think it's, ground and pound, and that's the way they consistently win? Or are you for this air it out, throw the ball 50 times and let it fly?
I like balance. The teams, if you have a Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to run the ball 30 times. It's stupid. Okay, It just doesn't make sense. You have to show me what your offense consists of. If you're Tennessee, Tennessee's not going to come out with Henry back there and throw the ball 45 times. That's stupid as well. So it's kind of what kind of personnel you have. And, as far as running the ball, you have to be able to run the ball. Okay. You don't have to run it 50 times, but in a crucial time with 3rd and 1 at times, the good teams get them.
Yeah.
And they run and they get them. The Buccaneers, for an example, the Buccaneers in the last 2 years, boy, it's 3rd and 1. They don't even try to run the ball. It's because it's a mentality. Mm-hmm. There's very few teams in this day and age that have a mentality of running the football. Very few. So when it comes to crunch time, it's hard to run it. And when you throw the ball, a lot of bad things can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And one other thing that on the Cowboys, because I watch your stuff, and you, when the playoff time came last season, you said you weren't scared of the Cowboys. Don't scare you. And I'm just, obviously we scared you enough. We beat the hell out of the Buccaneers and really packing, and he's done. We put him in retirement. But what didn't scare you about the Bucs or about the Cowboys?
Well, they still don't scare me. Okay, I'm going to say this. If you listen to my podcast through the whole year, I never at one time thought the Bucs were even average. Yeah. The Bucs were not good. The Bucs were not good. The Bucs were 7-9 last year. we would have stopped talking about the Bucs in week 8 in a normal year last year, okay? We talked them all the way to the end. They kept on losing. Then they lost on the way out to, I thought, a below-average playoff. I mean, you guys were good.
Did you say, wait, whoa. Did you say the Cowboys were a below-average playoff team? Are you shitting me?
I was on the radio for a long time. I don't stutter. Yes, below average. Yes, absolutely.
Below average football team.
Below average.
Get the hell out of here, man.
Listen, I talk bad about Philly fans. Now let me get on the Dallas Cowboys.
Go ahead, get on the Cowboys.
Here we go.
Let me tell something about y'all, okay? Y'all are delusional. Every year, y'all gonna win it. Every year.
What the hell are you supposed to say?
My goodness. Yeah, you guys haven't won since Bronco Nagurski was playing, and you guys are talking like you just won.
Did you play when Bronco Nagurski played? Because we whooped your ass. You're 1-5 against the Cowboys in your career. What are we talking about?
And at the beginning of this whole interview, you said that the Cowboys had a disappointing year. Isn't that rich? It's the best year they've had in how many years?
Since the year before, they've been 12-5 the last 2 years. Kelly, help your brother.
Hey, look, I'm gonna.
They got in the last 10 years. How many playoff wins they got in the last 10 years?
10 years? They got what, 4?
4. Look, okay, I'll say this. You know, the way I look at the Cowboys is that, you know, first of all, I like to say this is our year just to rile people up, right? But I think that a lot of the Cowboys fans, and we just look at it like this, man. I look at it like eventually the streak has to end. All streaks must end, and the Cowboys streak has got to end eventually. But hear me out now. If you look at this Cowboys team, do you not think that they have, so right now, looking at it as composed, now I get we got to have some more consistency, but I think that the Cowboys right now, as constructed, they got some pieces on defense and on offense, both. When you're looking at receiver, you've got a guy like CeeDee Lamb that I believe I don't think he's the number 1 overall receiver, but I would put him in the top probably 5 to 6 range. You've got Michael Parsons, who I think is one of the best all-around defenders, period, in the game. And I think he's only going to continue getting better. You got Trayvon Diggs out there on the outside corner, who has continuously progressed. You know, first it was the interceptions, and last year he was actually shutting people down. I think they've got pieces on both sides of the ball. I think the thing with the Cowboys has been consistency and culture, and I think that Mike McCarthy has started to develop a culture. They weren't as penalized last year. They've started to show a little bit of signs of consistency, but they need some dog in them. They need a little bit of dog, but I think they got some pieces. And looking at the NFC this year, it's pretty watered down. I mean, the NFC is watered down as this whiskey when the ice melts. So what do you think about their chances in the NFC this year? You don't think they stand a shot to make a playoff run, just looking at the way that it's constructed right now?
Yeah, I mean, they got a chance, sure. I mean, you're telling me that the NFC is down and instead of you telling me how great, you know, the Cowboys are. And listen, what I do know is this. I watch a lot of sports, and you keep on telling me that, you know, they have a good player here, good player there, but, you know, the Nets have good players everywhere. I didn't win squat. The guy who put together your team doesn't get it. He's grasping for straws and pulling names out of a hat, and he doesn't know how to put a team together. I mean, you could argue that all you want. Jerry Jones doesn't know how to put a team together. You guys have been picking great players for a long time, and there hasn't been a whole lot of success.
Well,
so listen,
yeah,
you know, Jerry Jones needs to sit back and let a football person take it over. It's not going to happen until he dies.
It won't happen when he dies. I mean, because his son's going to. But you don't think Will McClay is and you look at the Cowboys draft. I mean, look at the draft that they've had. Do you think it's a culture thing with the Cowboys? Are you saying it's not personnel? It's because you might have an argument there. It'd be hard for me to argue. Do you think it's a culture issue where he's too close to the players? He gets too close to the players as the owner, and there's no barrier between the coach and the owner. The players know they can go right to the owner. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I always say about teams, they have to learn how to win, okay? The Cowboys haven't won on a consistent basis. Usually, it's a progression, okay? Usually, you win 6 games, you win 8 games, you win 11 games, you're competing. The Cowboys go back and forth, okay?
No.
They're getting better, they're getting worse.
No.
Dak's getting better, Dak's getting worse. Where's the consistency?
No, my friend. They've won 12 games last year, 12 games the year before. Dak got hurt, So they didn't have a good year before that. They made the playoffs the year before. Dak's rookie year, they won 13 games. The guy's won double-digit games 4 of his 7 years. And 1 year he was hurt. So 2 years, they went 9-7 in 1 year. They lost Zeke the second year to some bullshit Roger Goodell, thing that he did on Zeke about some crap in college. So let's be real with that. So I don't buy that. Where I think if you're going to make an argument, my friend, if you're going to make an argument about the Cowboys, when the playoffs come, the quarterback is not performing to the level that he needs to perform. If you look at that San Francisco game, they didn't lose because of the defense. They lost because of the bad decisions that their quarterback made, or you could throw the coordinator if you want to throw him under the bus too. But that's the problem with the Cowboys. The Cowboys, look at their record in the 2000s. They're top 5 in wins. So they win. They just can't win in the playoffs.
Just can't get it done.
I think you guys are forgetting about the 90s when you guys are winning every other year, because now you're celebrating.
I'm not celebrating. No, whoa, we're not Philly fan. We're not Philly fan that's celebrating going to the Super Bowl. We no.
Hey, listen, I got a saying, man. When I argue with these Philly fans, I always have a saying, and that's been this way since 1996. Every season that ends, I say it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ring. So I don't count playoff wins. I don't count Super Bowl appearances. Like, it's for me, those are participation trophies. Show me where you got the hardware. So I think every season, I agree. I think every season where the Cowboys don't finish with the Super Bowl ring, for me, is a disappointment. We get to the NFC Championship game this year and we lose. That's a disappointing season for me. I'm not going to go out and buy NFC East hats. I don't buy NFC East title gear when we win the NFC East, because all that shit don't mean nothing.
No, Philly hangs banners up. I bet it. They have NFC East Division Championship banners in their stadium. Let's be real.
They make T-shirts.
I don't want hey guys, don't change. I don't want you guys to change. If Dallas Cowboys fans change, this world will open up and we'll all fall into an abyss. Don't change, please.
I'll never change.
No, we keep that same mentality. But I just feel like there's been, with any team, it takes consistency, but obviously you have to have a little bit of luck. And I think if we can get, for whatever reason, Dak Prescott just has not been consistent in the biggest moments at the biggest times. San Francisco last year, San Francisco the year before, he just hasn't do it. And I just feel like if he has that moment where he can put it together, because I don't count the Tampa Bay game, because like you said, Tampa Bay was a mediocre team that it is what that is. There was people that are bumping their chest, and don't get me wrong, I was excited that we won a playoff game, but I was not content that we won a playoff game, because at the end of the day, it didn't mean shit. But if Dak Prescott can put it together and play consistency, I think that this Cowboys defense is good enough to shut any other team down. And I think that they got better this year with the additions that they got. When you added Gilmore to the other side of the corner, that rookie Mozzie, I don't know what he's going to do in his rookie year, but we were weak against the run. We did some things to solidify the middle of that defensive line. So I think this defense is going to be really solid. So I don't think you got to ask that much of Dak Prescott. I think if Mike McCarthy's smart, he does a well-balanced offense. You don't need Prescott throwing it 30, 35 times a game. And I think they can get a winning formula. And I think the Cowboys can compete. I think they can beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they could beat the Detroit Lions, who I think will be a sneaky good team in the NFC. There's not any team right now in the NFC that scares me. I think the Cowboys are right there at the top, 1A and 1B with the Philadelphia Eagles, honestly.
Nah, you wait a minute now. The Eagles don't scare you.
No, we dropped 40 on them, didn't we?
Okay, wait.
Didn't we?
The Eagles don't scare you.
No.
I think. Listen, I'm gonna say this. I think
I'm not scared of them.
I think they got a good team. Yeah, they got a good team
in the NFC. I'm not gonna deny that you got to give them the credit. Until you got to be the man, you got to beat the man. So I give them all the credit, but I'm not staying up all night trying to figure out how the hell we're going to get past the Eagles. I witnessed it with my own eyes. Our offense dropped 40 on them. I mean, and that was just this year.
Offensively, I'm not sure their identity. I think they have identity defensively. I don't see their identity offensively.
You think with Dallas you don't?
Yeah.
No. Do you tell me what their identity is offensively?
No, I agree with you.
I agree. And I think
on the offense, I think that's where the question's been with Kellen Moore. And I think, with McCarthy, I think he's going to bring that offensive mentality.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
McCarthy.
It's time to find that identity, man. It's time to find that identity.
You don't like
I
McCarthy?
mean, I don't. Not like I don't like him, but just changing a play caller is not usually the answer. Okay,
Well,
changing a play caller.
Well, I'd ask you, I'm not an X and O guy, dude. I'm a fan, so I'm gonna lean on you. There was something to be said with Kellen Moore's offense and what they talked about, the receivers talked about, and other players talked about. Mike McCarthy talked about a lot, and it was all option routes where the receiver had to read it, and the receiver had to know what to do, and the quarterback had to do it. So each one had their own job to do, and they said Mike McCarthy was against that. He just wants it to be drop, 3-step drop, West Coast, whatever it is, go to your spot and throw it there. So would that make a difference being a football player? Is that something that makes sense, or are they full of shit and just feeding us a line to make us feel better?
No, I don't think they're full of shit. I mean, is it better? It can be, but usually when you change things, it doesn't click right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. I think coordinators a lot of times can be overrated. And I think coordinators a lot of times get way too much blame. Here in Tampa Bay last year, everybody wants to tell me that Byron Leftwich can't call a play. The same son of a bitch that was the best play caller 2 years ago. Okay? The long and short of it is this, everybody. If I'm a Buccaneer fan, I'm Bucs through and through, but I'm a realist, okay? The Bucs last year weren't better anywhere than they were 2 years before. And this year, they're not going to be better anywhere than they were last year. So if you think the Bucs are going to be good, you're going to be crazy. But for me, the Dallas Cowboys have been kind of the same the last 3 years.
Yeah,
they're in a season. They're explosive and they can. And it's just at the end of the year, you say, "What are you going to hang your hat on?" And you just can't grab it offensively.
Yeah,
because Dak's not always there.
Yeah, I agree.
Not always there. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair.
Dak is there, if Dak shows up, man, you guys look good. But tough.
So I want to ask a couple things. I mean, we could sit here for all night. You get me going. Two things. I'm going to talk about the past real quick because you're an offensive lineman, and I catch myself. I got in an argument with some former players, coaches, and every guest on here. Emmitt Smith. Is Emmitt Smith? What's your thoughts on him? Is he an offensive line? Is he responsible for the offensive line being as good as he was, or was he as good as advertised as what I believe? What's your thoughts on Emmitt Smith?
Both. Emmitt Smith was a fabulous running back. He would have been fabulous behind any line, but he also ran behind the best line I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So he had some of the biggest holes. You can say what you want about Emmitt Smith. Old boy played with half a shoulder, half a neck, and he played all the time. Played hard regardless. Blocked, caught passes, played injured. Shame on you to say anything bad about Emmitt Smith.
All right, good. I appreciate it.
Back in the day, they had some of the, like I said, Lionel was the best I've ever seen. Eric Williams at times was the best I've ever seen. Now he was a freak. You know what I mean? Nate Newton was overrated.
See, now there you go. Now, I'm glad to listen because I always get this with some of these guys, and they'll bring up Nate Newton. And I like Nate Newton, don't get me wrong. But I said this guy was out of the league. He ate himself out of the league. He was in the USFL. People make him out to be, was the next coming, like Emmitt. And I always say, well, Derek Lassick, when Emmitt Smith held out, Derek Lassick was running behind that line, and Dallas started 0-2. So you can't tell me that Emmitt Smith didn't have something to do with their success as well. And you make that point, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I mean, Emmitt Smith is the durability of him, and that's Dallas Cowboy team. I mean, they had Hall of Famers everywhere. It's not too many people can say that.
Yeah,
they had Hall of Famers at every single position offensively.
Yeah, no, they were. I mean, those were good times. I was a little spoiled, right? We were spoiled, and boy, I missed them times. But Kelly, I know Kelly wanted to talk about this offensive line with the Cowboys. You wanted to ask.
Well, so I just had a few questions. Obviously, I'm don't have an offensive lineman background. I don't really have much of a football background, period. So I want to ask a guy who's played on the offensive line and has that experience. There's been talks of them moving our right tackle, Terrence Steele, and moving him over to play guard and possibly moving him over to the left side there. What is the biggest difference? Because you hear about guys that can play swing tackle, they can go to left tackle, right tackle. What's the biggest difference of moving from one side of the line to the other side of the line? And is it an easy transition? Is it some can make, some can't? What's the biggest challenge in doing that?
I'm a good person to ask about that. I played right guard for 9 years. When I was in college, I flip-flopped from right to left. Very few NFL players flip-flop on offense because you're trying to get great at something. Don't flip-flop. You got to stay one side, okay? So if you want to be a great, well, baseball is a tough example, but usually somebody's better hitting one way than the other way. You know what I mean? But I played right guard for 9 years. At the end of my career, they wanted me to go to left guard in Denver. Couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Like, all the bad habits at right guard are good habits at left guard. So as a right guard, my left foot always has to be up. Always. In every situation. If it's up at left guard, you're beat. So now you got it's a great example. You ever back up a trailer?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like backing up a trailer. Like your mind is saying something and your brain's doing something else, and it's tough to do. Some people can do it, but I'm not ambidextrous like that. Okay,
yeah.
So I know Tristan Wirfs is going to be moving from right tackle to left tackle for money's sake, probably, and I get it. Tristan Wirfs is one of the best right tackles I've ever seen, and if anybody could do it, it's him. But he might go a little bit of growing pains on the left side, but I wouldn't be shocked if he makes that transition smoothly, though.
Yeah, because they the main thing is they've been talking, they want Steele. They talked about moving Steele from right tackle to left tackle. Tyron Smith to fill in at that right tackle position, which he's played left tackle his whole career, and then moving in Tyler Smith, our outstanding left tackle rookie, into left guard, which I think
they were talking about Tyler Smith left tackle, Steele going from right tackle to guard.
The left guard. Okay. Well,
I don't Tyron Smith because they want him on the field at right tackle. So it's that premise of, do you want the 5 best offensive linemen that are on paper, or do you want the 5 best that are most comfortable in their position? What was what's your?
I'm shocked that Tyron Smith still freaking playing.
I know.
I mean, has you played more than 6 games in the last 4 years?
No. I think it's been 5.
When he's healthy,
he's damn good when he's healthy.
For 2 games.
Yeah.
He's never healthy.
No, I know.
Never healthy.
Nope.
I know, but they got him at a reasonable price. I mean, it's one of those things. But like, my thought is, you got Tyler Smith. I don't know if you followed him at all, but Tyler Smith was a rookie that we drafted. Got a lot of hate for it. I thought he played really well at left tackle, and I'm thinking, if you got Tyler Smith that's playing well at left tackle, why would you mess with that? And just right? I mean, I know Tyron Smith is probably maybe better on that day, but the whole season you're going to be better with Tyler Smith, right?
I would go with the youth, man. I mean, go with the younger person who's going to be there ultimately. Tyler Smith, you can put him there for a little bit, but he's not going to be there in week 10. So I just don't. I mean, bounce him around, I guess. Right tackle is not as important as left tackle, but I mean, he's one of those players that you can't put him on the bench. If he's healthy, he's better than everybody else.
I know,
but he's gonna get hurt, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I'm praying maybe he gets a 16-game season. We go to the playoffs, and then we're there. But hey, one of our followers asked a question. One of the viewers. A defensive lineman was, I'm not going to say you feared anyone. You don't seem like the type of guy that feared anybody. But is there anyone that gave you a lot of trouble that you just, man, when you saw that you were lined up against him, you're like, God, this is going to be a long day?
Well, it's funny. I just went to the combine this year, and Will Shields was the host. Mm-hmm. One of the best guards to ever play. And we sat down and had a great conversation, and I said, who's the toughest player you ever played against? And he looked within 1 second. He said, John Randall. And I said, how many times did you play against him? He goes, just once, but that was enough. And I looked at him. I go, you know how many times I played against John? He goes, how many? You know how many? How many times I played against John Randall?
Oh, you had to play against 18?
16 times.
16, okay.
16 times. So it's a lot.
And he's an undersized defensive tackle, right?
Yeah, but I mean, undersized weight-wise, but
no, just his motor.
He's like shooting a cannonball out of a cannon. And ironically, John Randall came around the corner, like right after that, when we were discussing stuff with him. I had problems with tall, strong, long-armed defensive tackles. Keith Hamilton, he was a problem. Frank Warren, not big names, but they were big, strong guys. Both those guys ate my lunch, and I only played against them once, thank God.
Yeah. Did you? What about Leon Lett? Did you line up against him at all in Dallas or no?
I did, and I didn't have any problems against Leon. I thought he was weak.
Really?
Oh wow.
Yeah, he didn't have much. He didn't have much strength. And like I played against Leon, I played against Chad Henning, I played against Casillas, that Win, a bunch of guys. And Leon. Certain people, certain styles give you problems. Leon didn't give me.
Yeah, styles make fights. I'm a big boxing guy. They always say that. So, one other thing about again, I just had all these things I wanted to ask you. So I'm a U guy, and the Tampa Bay, they almost were like the Miami U around your time. You had Lamar Thomas and Horace Copeland and Craig Erickson. Any thoughts on them as players? Did you interact much with any of the guys from the U?
Yeah, those are all my boys. Craig Erickson, I hung out with him a little bit. Sully was our center, backup center. Mike Sullivan, he was another guy from U. Hung out with Sully a little bit. Everybody from the U was cool.
Yeah.
High C didn't say a whole lot. He was just fast as hell. And Lamar was batshit crazy.
Yeah. Well, we had George Teague on our show, and got reminded of I don't know if you remember the Lamar game in Miami when George Teague ran him down and stripped it and kind of embarrassed us on that day. I don't know if anyone ever gave him crap for that in the professional leagues in your locker room if you had any Bama guys, but we still can't live that one down. Dennis Erickson even brought it up.
I never heard anybody busting his balls for that, but I did hear people busting Darryl Fullington's balls for not getting back against Boston College.
Oh yeah, Flutie. You're talking about the Hail Mary?
Yeah.
Oh God, you're bringing up all these bad things, but anyway, Kelly, was there anything else that you had that we're missing?
No, I was just gonna ask because I always like to ask guys that played in in a more, I'm just gonna say more physical era because it was. There's no way to sugarcoat that. What do you think about the way that the NFL is headed? There's been a lot of complaints about officiating. I mean, we've talked to when we were talking to George Teague, you talked about how a lot of times now they have that rule where basically the receiver has to catch the ball before you can hit him. Otherwise, it's a defenseless receiver. There's a lot of rules that they've just, the quarterback, when you tackle him, you got to lay him down with a fucking bubble wrap and a pillow and shit because you're going to get a flat. What do you think about the way this NFL is headed? Do you think it's good for the game or do you think it's a bad thing? What do you think?
I don't think anybody thinks it's good for the game. I mean, when I see a defensive tackle lay down a quarterback, and I get a penalty, I get mad. Okay, I don't want to be mad. All right, I meditate and I do all these things to not get mad. And I'm an offensive lineman, and man, let them play. There's people that are changing the rules that never played the game, and the game is fast.
Yeah,
and you just can't see everything on the field all the time, and the rules are getting to a point where, man, you sneeze on somebody and you get ejected. The NFL, all they're doing is covering their ass for all the years of neglect and not calling all these things. And now you can't breathe on somebody where for years they were making money off of all the illegal hits and putting them in videos and stuff. So, I love the fact that fans and media keep on saying, well, the NFL is changing with concussions. Bullshit. They put Tua back on the field 4 times last year. Okay? So I don't give a shit. The NFL doesn't care. They've never cared. When you're done, the doorknob hits in your ass, and they care less. So if anybody thinks the NFL cares one iota about their players, get me a former player to tell you that. I bet you can't find them.
Yeah. No. We've had a bunch on here, and it kind of echoes the same thing. And I was going to say before I forget, Joe Washington. I don't know if you remember him. He played at Oklahoma and then played with the Redskins. Him and I got into it because he compared, and I love Robert Newhouse, but he compared Emmitt Smith to Robert Newhouse, and I was same style. I was so offended, and I love Joe.
Right, but they're not the same. They're not even close.
I know. It got me so upset. But one thing that it didn't get me upset, but I don't know if you know, but Jerry Jones is a friend of the show. And
Okay.
I heard you had some choice words for Jerry.
I ain't scared of Jerry.
Jerry does not take that lightly. So Jerry wants to have a few minutes with you. And Jerry, do you got anything you want to say to Mr. Ian Beckles?
Well, now, Mr. Ian Beckles, you've come face to face with your maker. And by maker, I mean Jerry Jones, a.k.a. Swaggy J. And I just wanted to tell you, I had considered bringing you over to America's team and even Canada's team to come play offensive line for some of the best you've ever seen. But you decided to go to Philly. And I'll tell you what, I just couldn't do it after that. You broke my heart. And I don't know that it's a relationship that can be prepared or repaired. But I do appreciate you coming on the show. And I really do.
Well, Jerry, I have love for you, but I would fly on your private jet. I just don't think you're that great at putting together a football team. That's all.
Well, I'll tell you this. If you ever want to come to a game, I'll send Air Force One down to scoop you up now.
Send that son bitch right now. Let's rock.
Oh, man. Hey, I tell you what, like I said, I told Kelly, I said, man, when Ian comes out, he's the real deal. He ain't going to sugarcoat nothing. He ain't going to hold nothing back. He's going to have some fun. We got some healthy debate. And I've had a blast. I mean, I love, sometimes we got player interviews and it's a little, it could be a little stiff. It could, I had a couple guys on, you try and pull out the realness. And I told Kelly, I said, ain't going to be no problem here. Ian's going to, I've listened to him for a long, long time. He's going to say it like it is and how he feels. And that's just
I didn't even know what this podcast was about. But the second you put on, I saw that big star. I said, all right, here we go. This should be fun. This should be fun.
So, hey, but seriously, tell everybody where they can find you. You were doing 620 for a long time. I don't know whatever happened to that. I don't know. It don't make no sense. I mean, but anyway, what's up?
Well, I mean, when you make a lot of money, sometimes you get that knock on your door. You know what I mean? So it was no deeper than that. They went a different direction. The direction was younger and shittier, and that's what they get. As far as me, I do podcasts, my In the Trenches podcast, and my football podcast. I do every other week. It's Buccaneer, but a lot of football stuff.
Yeah.
I have a Plat Power podcast. I'm definitely an advocate for marijuana, like the guy Stepnowski.
Yes.
And then other than that, I have the Dignitary Tea and Kava House. I have a smoke shop here, 4817 Southwest Shore. Anybody here in the Tampa Bay area? We have the best kava and kratom in the Tampa Bay area. If you guys have ever been exposed, I stopped drinking alcohol and I drink kava now and kratom. So,
well, I'm gonna have to try that. I live in Tampa. I live in Palm Harbor, but I'm gonna have to just check that out and pay a little visit.
Come hang out. We got some cool people here all the time.
No, definitely. Well, Ian, I appreciate you coming into the cave, talking some football. Like I said, I give you the ultimate respect because you played for the Eagles. I have asked probably 10 to 15 Eagle fans or Eagle former players to come in the cave, and as soon as they find out it's the Cowboys cave, they decline very rudely. So I appreciate you coming in and showing, and talking about your career and giving us a hard time about the Cowboys. It's all right. I mean, we need some tough love sometimes.
Tough love is good, and I don't have no love for the Cowboys or the Eagles. So there you go, rock and roll.
All right, man. You take care. I appreciate it, and hope to see you soon, man. I appreciate you jumping on.
All right, guys.
All right, take care.
All right, man. Thanks.
Bye.
Peace.
Oh, man, that was
good. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Yeah,
it's always nice having a little bit of some back and forth and a little bit of not friction, but a little bit of good-natured ribbon when it comes to the Cowboys and the Eagles and whatnot. So
was I getting too loud? Was I getting wrong? I mean,
no, man. I mean, sometimes you gotta.
I mean, they say that we're what did he say we were? I mean.
Well, he said we were below average playoff team.
Oh, I just, yeah. Well,
the Giants were a below average playoff team.
Yes.
The Bucs were a below average. The Minnesota Vikings were a below average playoff team. The Cowboys, I don't think were a below average team. I think the Cowboys, looking at that roster, I mean, fuck, look at the odds. If you look at the odds last year, the Cowboys had the best odds in the NFC to win the Super Bowl. Now, obviously that didn't play out and odds don't mean shit, but we had the best odds. Usually Vegas is pretty fucking smart when they put things together like that. You know, I mean, Vegas is right more than they're not. And they had us as the odds-on favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I think they had it that way for a reason. I think they had it right. Yeah. And I just think that we, bad quarterback play, not great receiver play because, the receiver, there was some wrong routes ran in that game. There was some, Trayvon Diggs making a business decision and deciding not to.
I didn't give credit in the chat. And I thought if I didn't put it up, I do apologize, but I'm trying to look through there. But I tell you what, that was I want to give credit where credit's due. That was the play of the game. Diggs separating that ball. Now you can say, is it the rule like you talked about? Is it the rule that scares these players?
I think he did make a business decision, but here's what I think. I think that if he would have made that hit, I think it'd have been a 15-yard penalty. I think you have to let him catch that ball, and that's what I absolutely despise about that rule, because how can you, as a defensive player, how is that a win scenario for you? It's not. So you're gonna go and create the contact and separate the player from the ball, which is what you're taught to do if you're a defensive back or a safety. You're supposed to hit that player and jar that ball loose, right? It's simultaneous impact. The ball touches their hands, you should lay them the fuck out. They can't do that anymore. And honestly, it's not even about laying them out. Even if he gave them a clean hit, if it's a harder hit, they're still gonna end up throwing the flag on him. And I think 100%. Diggs makes that play and separates the ball. I think they're still throwing a penalty, and we got a 15-yard penalty on that play. And it's still, now who knows what it ended up, because I think that play with him was longer than 15 yards, but either way, gave him a first down. I think they still would have got a first down if we end up, Diggs hits it. But you're right. You want to see him at least make the play on the ball, because honestly, I'll take the 15-yard penalty, but you light that son of a bitch up so he thinks twice next time he's trying to catch a ball coming up the middle like that.
That was the only play really they had all game. I mean, that was it. I mean, they weren't doing nothing until then. But I have to ask you, Kelly. So I dug deep for that video.
Yeah. I dug deep for this video. Pass interference call, and that's why Dallas. When he delivered it.
I'll put the mute on so we could talk over. This was my favorite. I mean. And for him, when I saw his picture at the end, I said, "Dude, I got him."
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
I know, it was funny where he said that was his worst loss.
Yeah,
his worst loss.
I still remember this. I mean, I was there, and like I said, my buddy is a big Eagle fan, and he was he's ripped, waving the flag, and they were killing us the whole game. It was like 20 to whatever. We scored 14 points in the last few minutes. And let's see that look on his face one more time. There it is. And he's a good dude, man. He was a lot of fun.
He is, but that's the look of pain. What's funny though is I had no idea that not only were we America's team, we were Canada's team too.
Yeah, well,
he said that.
And who was I talking to? Maybe it was on Sunday. It was somewhere, and they were just talking about the Cowboys. The fans are arrogant. They call themselves America's team. And I always thought, we didn't do that. NFL did that. NFL Films did that.
We didn't give ourselves that name. See, unlike other teams, fan bases who try to steal that moniker from us and try to take that and say, well, we're America's team, or somebody says, this is America's team now. We didn't give that name to ourselves, but I'm just gonna say, I mean, we're America's team, whether people tell us we are or not. I don't give a shit if we don't win for another 15 years. We'll still be America's team, because like Ian said, you either love the Cowboys or you hate the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But regardless, you're watching.
You're watching. They always do.
You're watching. Guess what I'm not doing on a Sunday afternoon if the Cowboys play at noon? Guess what I'm not doing? I'm not fucking watching the Eagles play.
No,
never. I don't unless the Eagles are on prime time, Sunday night football, Monday night football, or Thursday night football. I don't fucking watch the Eagles play. Now I'll keep up with the score and look to see if they won their game or not. I'm not fucking watching the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not watching the Giants, and I'm not watching the fucking Commanders.
I
But every
know,
single one of them fuckers are in their goddamn recliners watching the fucking Cowboys when we play.
I gotta come clean because I don't want to. Someone call me out. I'm an NFC guy, so I will. I'll watch the Eagles play as long as it's a good game. I'm not gonna watch them play the Cardinals, but if the Eagles and the Giants play, I will watch it. I hate to say that, maybe.
Well, my blood pressure and my temper can only take so much. Because here's the thing: I would root for the Eagles to lose as hard as I root for the Cowboys to win, and that's just unhealthy for me. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to have a heart attack. If I have a heart attack, it's going to be because the Cowboys won. And, you know, I'm going up to knock on the pearly gates and see if I can gain entry. It's not going to be from watching the Eagles fucking beat somebody, and I was pissed off because they ended up pulling it out in the last seconds. I just can't do it.
No, it'll take a mental toll. There's no doubt about it. But no, I tell you what, such a good show. I said this man was going to deliver, and we, you know, like someone said, you got to get him on again. We'd love to get him on again.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we'll get him on Dallas Eagle Week. One thing I am working on, and Kelly, Kelly's working on it as well, is when we lead up to these games, we're going to try and find some. We're going to try and find some players from the other team because see if we can mix it up a little bit. You know, when we play the Dolphins, we'll try and find a Dolphin. When we play the Eagles, you know, like I said, the Eagles, the thing I always say about Ian Beckles, man, he's going to tell you how he feels. Some of it you agree with, some of it you don't. But the thing I'll always say is I'm a fan. So when he gets deep in the trenches of the X's, I'm going to respect what he said. And I can't argue. I mean, the Cowboys' offensive identity last season, I mean, he stumped me because I really couldn't give one. And I think that was one of our biggest problems. We had nothing to hold our hat onto. But I think a lot of that has to do with the coordinator. I know he said sometimes the coordinators get too much of the credit, but I think it's just when the coordinator doesn't have an identity, I don't think the offense has an identity, and Moore just didn't have an identity.
Yeah, and I think McCarthy and Schottenheimer, I think they are going to have an identity. And what that is still to be determined because I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't say if it's going to – I feel like we're going to be a little bit more centered around a run-controlled, play-action style offense with quick timing routes with these wide receivers. I think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see an offense that's – not exactly like, but I feel the offense is going to be similar to what we see from San Francisco. I really do. And I think that we got the pieces to run that offense. And, you know, and obviously there will be some things to work out, but I think that Dak is going to flourish in this offense. I feel like he's going to have a great year. I think McCarthy is in tune with, he's been around long enough. He knows what needs to be done. And I don't know. I trust McCarthy more than I do Kellen Moore. And I know that people have talked about, McCarthy's offense got stale in Green Bay. That's why he got ran out of town, this or that. Well, this isn't the same McCarthy from Green Bay. If you're telling me that he has not learned, then he has no business being a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, and he was there a long time, and I think you do see that with coaches.
There's get stagnant.
Kind of a timeline, and like Ian talked about is sometimes he said these coaches saying the same crap over and over or a different day. Eventually it just gets stale on them. So and we're gonna tomorrow. I don't want to steal all our thunder because tomorrow night we're going to look at this offense. We're going to talk about this offense and how we feel. Because I think to your point, the identity, that is a great topic to talk about and to figure out. And then the other thing, I meant to ask him about what he thought of Deuce Vaughn, but I forgot. He got me so riled up about.
Well, I think not to answer for him, but I think that just what it seemed from his kind of general overall opinion is that most NFL teams just got a couple of guys, you know what I mean? And if that's the case, I think probably Deuce Vaughn fits into that scenario. Yeah. He's going to be a guy. He's not anybody that's going to be super special. I mean, maybe he could be down the line, but right away this year, he's not. I don't know. I got big hopes for the guy, man. And maybe I'm overselling it. Maybe I'm over, we can get into it more tomorrow, man. But I was over the top when we grabbed Deuce Vaughn. I watched several of his highlights. I've seen him in the Big 12. picked him up in any mock draft that I could snag him in, and I was usually getting him up in the 4th rounds, 5th rounds. I didn't think he'd fall all the way to the 6th round. I did not think he'd be there. So I'm excited, man. I love everything about him. I love the story. I love the everything he brings, his elusiveness. He may not be a blocking back. He's not the guy you want back there blocking.
Yeah, no.
But he's a Swiss Army knife, man. He can catch the ball, run the ball. I mean, he can do he's going to do some interesting things in this offense.
And I think and that was one of the things we're going to talk about. We'll get into it a little bit. Can he be like an X factor?
Right.
Where he's just out there and maybe it's a handful of plays, but he makes big, impactful plays. So we're going to get into it. But hey, man, we had a great show. We got a lot going on. If you guys haven't hit that like, subscribe, share, more importantly, subscribe. I don't know what the hell you guys are doing, man. We're bringing it. We're bringing the passion to Cowboys Nation, and we're bringing we're bringing the guests. That's the thing with us. We ain't afraid. I think Kelly and I just proved it today. We proved it in the last, and that's why we wanted to bring on these other teams. We want to bring on the Steelers. We want to bring on the Redskins. We want to bring on, the Eagles and whoever else wants to come into the cave. We want to hear the other side. We want to see some hate. We're not down for a love fest. We want to have some healthy debate. So I loved it. To me, when we talked about doing a podcast, we talked about doing this. This show was kind of like my dream scenario, at least for me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, talking football and talking Cowboys football is always fun, but getting the other side of it and the other perspective and what they think about us, how they feel about us, how they feel about our fans, Hey, and you know what? Listen, the guy played for Philly, and even he openly said their fans are fucking batshit crazy. That's his word. Philadelphia fans, batshit crazy. I should put that.
We should have that for a reel.
Put it on a t-shirt.
We're gonna cut this. We should have some good cut-ups from this show. I think.
Absolutely. You know what? We could take that and put it on a t-shirt. Just Eagles fans are batshit crazy. Ian Beckles. You know what I mean?
Hurry up and trademark that before someone else steals the ideas.
Yeah. I love it.
Anyway, hey, we're gonna get going because we got a show on Thursday, and then we got Memorial Day weekend. Are you doing anything Memorial Day weekend? You got anything planned?
I don't have anything big planned. I'm going on. My big plans are going to be for the following weekend when I go to San Antonio. Yeah, so I'd going down there to visit family, and we're going to go to a lake, do some boating, jet skiing, shit like that. So that could be fun. So we'll do that.
Nice.
Weekend. So I think I'm just going to relax and take it easy this weekend. We
got to get you to Tampa one of these trips. We got a couple jet skis. Now we got a place to smoke some legal stuff and drink some good fine liquor. I don't know what that liquor was. You're more of a connoisseur. Do you know what that was? What he was talking about?
I don't know. I've never heard of that. He said, did he say kratom? I think is what he said.
I'm gonna go back and play, but I know where he's at. So I'm gonna make a visit there, and I'll.
Hey, listen, Florida's never been a place that I've been before, man. So it's on the list. I get down there. Do a show we can do a show right there from your basement.
No, we don't go and do it from the cave. What are you talking about?
Do it from the cave, man. That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. So we're definitely gonna have a good time. Let's see. Since you're coming to Texas, should hang out. Well, I mean, I don't know what Kelly's plans are, but
well, Booker, Booker know you. Booker's my buddy on Snapchat, man. I got him on Snapchat. You know where to find me, but I think Booker's in Dallas. I'm gonna be in San Antonio, so I don't know if he's gonna wanna kratom. LOL stuff is legal in K's.
I'm gonna write this thing down. Because I guess I'm a boomer or something. I don't know what the hell any of that stuff is.
I know I like my whiskey, and I occasionally drink some malt liquor and some Miller Lite, and partake in a couple of legal activities here, some smoke or not smoke or whatever, some edibles, whatever. But
no, hey, whatever. To each is their own. I'm not a big. I'm not one of those guys that. I mean, do what you got to do, man. You live your life as long as you're not hurting nobody. I don't know why everyone's got to be up in everyone's business. But tomorrow, right. I forgot to say, your boy's putting overtime in. I got the UK Cowboys TV podcast. I don't want to mispronounce what they are, but there's some good dudes. Mike and Paul. They invited me on the show, so I'm gonna do a little double duty. I'm gonna mix that up a little bit. You know, we gotta make sure the cave is worldwide. So we're gonna make sure we're worldwide. So we're gonna do that, do some promoting, have some good times with those guys. And then of course we got our show. Make sure you guys are tuning in 9 o'clock. It's gonna be all Cowboys. And we can't say it enough. We want you guys to call in. We want you guys to jump on the live stream because the banter and the kind of stuff you guys saw tonight, man, that's what we're fans, man. That's what we want this show to be about, and having a good time with it. And I tell you, the hour flew by so fast. Now we're already creeping into an hour and a half.
That's what happens. That's what happens, man. We get going. But we do got another show tomorrow night, man, guys. So y'all make sure you all come back, tune in. Make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're sharing, make sure you're telling your friends, your relatives, your grandparents. Bring them all in. Bring them all in. We don't discriminate. You know, if you have some Eagles fans, you know, tell them too. As long as their name ain't Carl, we don't want him back in here. But
yeah, now there was going to be a poll. I meant to tell you, Jimmy D said, you know, should you know, talk to Kelly? Should we go ahead and get a poll to see if maybe we got to, you know, lift the ban on Carl?
We could put it to a vote. If we need to put it to a vote tomorrow, we could put it to a vote. I feel like the majority of the votes is gonna deny his parole though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's too much stuff. But anyway, you guys, hey, we loved it. We had a great time. Thank you. You know, when we drop these special Wednesdays, it's typically we got a great guest. We've got some fingers crossed. Let's see, we might have some pretty good guests coming up before the season starts. Maybe some guys from the 90s, maybe some legends, some Hall of Famers, some this, that. So you got to make sure you subscribe. Otherwise, you're gonna miss out on a lot of fun. So you guys have a good one. We will see you tomorrow night.
Peace out, Cowboys Nation.
The Eagles getting ready, because you might not like it, but you will learn to love it because we are the best thing going today. Now, can you?